This is day 307 of the Arukh HaShulchan OC. If you'd like to sponsor upcoming shir of the Arukh HaShulchan OC or more, please contact me directly. It would be very greatly appreciated. Today we're doing Simon Reish Yud Aleph, Seif Yud Gimel, to Reish Yud Beis, Seif Gimel. So, Yud Gimel. Kfari's bar, the Birchas Bereim is those Kulam Shar Brachos Levad Hamotzi. We already explained that the bracha of Bereim Zonos comes before all other brachas except for Motzi, including before Bereim, as we learned yesterday. Not just if the dishes, the cakes and cookies and bread, well, not bread because that would be Hamotzi, are made from wheat or barley, which has been explicitly available for Tavshim Kemach Kusmin B'Shifon corn. Corn is the old country term, the old world term for rye. It's not before maize. The new world crop became known as corn. But in any event, oats, rye, and oats, rye, and spelt are also not written explicitly, and they're included nevertheless within wheat and barley. Regardless, their bracha comes before gefen, tain, and rimon, wine or grapes and figs and pomegranates. It's a bad you will reach explicitly. I feel miyayin, and even wine himself. The chashi too, which is very significant. So, this is for several reasons. Since they're included in wheat and barley, they are the same as wheat and barley in terms of status. Furthermore, it's their significance that you can make for them bread. You can get to the level all the way of Amotzi, as well. They come first, even didn't make a bread of them. Even barley and its types. Sheni Loretz, which is second for an Oretz, Kodem Lazayis, comes before Zayis, Shalish Loretz Sheni, which is the first species after the second Oretz. They should be Chosim Mezonos, and that is because they're Brachos Mezonos, and they precede Brachos Bari Praise. He says, Mashkon in the brackets, Mashkos Magay Avram, Sikon Yimah, the Zayis Kodem, everyone says the Zayis comes first, Tzarech Irim. It requires further analysis. Meaning all the 5 species of grain come before olives. Without. Anytime we say that one precedes the other, that's when you want to eat from both of them. Therefore you should, again, we've had much debate about this, but from the Minish come first, or Chaviv, or the more significant, or the one you like the most, or Chashav, or the most significant. We don't want to eat both things, which even though they're on the table, they only make a brother than what you want to eat. Even though both are on the table. In place where you have to do something first because it's one of the 7 species. Even if it's only half a fruit, and the other fruit, shlema, there's a full fruit, still the half fruit, which is meaning comes first. Sharatzin brings that the Merchis Shekels says the Reishmai makes the bracha on both of them together, like would be the case with bread, where one is better and one is better, but half a loaf, and one is a whole loaf, but not as good. But the Ram says that this difference. Magen Avraham says, that Merchis Shekels says that the Magen Avraham, it seems that he holds that by fruits, even the Reishmai does not have to make a bracha on both. Okay, back to Shiva Sinim says in the order of preference of the Shiva Sinim, one before another. Where wheat comes before barley. Even the wheat bread is sliced. But we're talking about something which is preferable because it's more light, near the Sholem Adif. In that case, the shalem is superior, meaning if they are both equivalent in terms of being from Shiva Sinim, or they're not for the Shiva Sinim. The evidence is there. where we say that both are wheat, both are barley, bechad naki, bechad sholim, and one is clean and one is whole. The sholim other that the sholim is spirit, ayin sham. Test Bob. Because Rabbeinu Ramah calls it dafka, calls it tzorich lakdima and lechatchila dafka. All the halachas we learn, or lechatchila. We made a bracha on the second thing. You know, bracha Shabbos, the bracha said, "Come on, you're bracha and tzorich langsar bracha. I was there, so you look lakdim. You have to go back and make another bracha now, which should have come first. So Bashi Taitola, Kamir Chosar, I can't show as long as you had in mind when he made the bracha. But feel you stay in front of, even they were both in front of him. But she's coming with Perish Potro. You have to mind explicitly to exempt the other one. So if you made a bracha on the least less chashuv one by accident, so then it only is mostly the more chashuv one if you had in mind when you made the bracha on the less chashuv one to be mostly the more chashuv one. Otherwise, there's no stomach. Which is a fascinating idea. In the reverse, the chashuv one exempts the non-chashuv one even in generic intent. That's for the Magen Abraham. When the second was not from him, but then the generic circumstances, even the more significant one does not exempt the less significant one. Unless you might explicitly for that fruit which is not on the table. Finally, Tez Zayin. The near Lafin is daiti. Shazesh Kazra Rabbeinu Ramah Shein Choshev Ein Pot as a Choshev Bistama. Tifshishnei in front of that which Ramah wrote that the one which is less Choshev does not exempt one which is more Choshev in a generic situation, even if both in front of it. Zel b'tamachom sheyadei. I think that's what tamachom knows halacha because berach Hashem Choshev, but nevertheless made bracha on the less significant one. We could say that generically we assume by default that he had a mind that should not exempt. Then the cloud, so he does not the halach at all. Without any intent made the bracha on one of them randomly. Generically, we assume he had a mind to exempt the second one. To say do a call, and this is the consistent with everybody. We have the brachas are the same brachas. Rambam. Perhaps he held that this one is chaviv, and that the halachas like the Rambam that perhaps this one was chaviv, and halachas around he held the halachas from Rambam. The chaviv comes first, and this was chaviv by him. Therefore, the salach of the Ramah is only abstract and not practical. Whenever we have bracha on one meat on the table, we was less chash one by default. We assume it covers everything in the same bracha, which is on the table. Mr. Bura writes that according to Ramah, he writes according to Ramah, the svara is that it's not proper that something which is not chashuv should extend that is more chashuv derech graga by being dragar by doing that long elo kavana, but only if it's liberated, and that would be true by any person, even an amaretz. But regardless, as Arukh HaShulchan says, in our day and age, we would not require a second bracha. Yudain, Seder Milas. Okay, so now we have everything in order. A summation. The advantages. Hamoitzi is first, highest. Barimina mizonos al achitim. Barimina mizonos al saorim. Okay, so first mizonos on wheat and mizonos on barley. The Shabbat says, insert between mizonos to saorim and the next thing, which is olives, he puts wine. So he bumps wine up to immediately after Mazonos, which is a big nafkamina. Okay, so again, there's all the chatchila, but regardless. So according to Arukh HaShulchan, Mazonos on Sorim, and then Zaysim, olives, Tamarim, dates, Geffen, grapes, presumably wine also, the Taina figs, Rimon, pomegranate last. Those say the zays that olives come before burning mazonos are barley. This is from the Magen Abraham, but the Arukh HaShulchan points out he left out dates for some reason. And he says the news like the Enokain, he says he doesn't agree with that, and the Rab also doesn't agree with that. Veitz v'adama comes shakol. Veitz adam of course comes from shakol. Veitz comes adama. Veitz comes before adama. Achim adama chaviv. But if adama is more dear to him at that moment, yivarech mikodim al. Some say at the moment, some say all the time. You should make it first to Adama, Bicham, and leave Torah's Eitz. Have mind specifically not to exempt the Eitz. I mean, Shiva called them animal Shiva. That which is from the same species precedes that which is not from the same species. We're going to pasuk muktam bracha, and anything which comes prior in the pasuk comes prior to the bracha. However, that which is adjacent to the second oretz in the pasuk, yeshlo maila ala shlisha kama comes before the third after the first oretz. V'adama shel shiva saminim gon kosi schita ima eitz she'enu shiva saminim. If you have a choice between chewing raw grain of wheat, which is hadama, and a choice between that and ha'etz, saying an apple, which not shivas meaning. That's bahaga. It's coming. Bahaga always comes first. V'shai pasuk chokim the pasuk that dama and wheat comes first. That's Rambam Chaviv Kol Mechol Davar. According to the Rambam, Chaviv comes before everything else. What is Chaviv? That's Rambam Chaviv Mach Chaviv Lata. What do you want? Rambam is what you want to eat right now. That's the Rosh Mach Chaviv Latam. And Rosh is whatever's Chaviv love in general. Eating and drinking brachas precede fragrance brachas. Nearly, the Chilakonim Shasiya, the Rosh adds that it seems to him that brachas on eating precede brachas on drinking. And if you're eating, drinking whiskey with pastry, everybody agrees to make first a bracha on mizonos on the pastry. Even though the whiskey is more precious, dear to you. The ain't versus no logic that drinking and shako should precede eating and mizonos. That is the Chamaisa. The bird priyagofen claim shar brachos about a motzi borim in mizonos. Well, I don't know why we had to have the Mishnah Berurah before brought in. If there's the Arukh HaShulchan final analysis agrees in these brackets at the end that bird priyagofen does precede the other brachos except for a motzi and borim in mizonos. So all is well that ends well. The Mishnah Berurah and Arukh HaShulchan both agree that wine comes between mizonos and olives. But brings down a rabbah that who tries to justify those who make the bracha on whiskey before pastry, and nevertheless he says it's appropriate to make the bracha mizonos first, because otherwise the pastry might consider to be a tafel, considering a pastry to accompany the whiskey and would not require bracha at all. So therefore you should make a bracha on it first. Reish Yud Beis Sha'ikar Poter Asatfela. Speaking of that topic. The primary exempts the secondary. Aleph, Shanucha Chomiyom Mishlachom Mitor Zakal jumps with Koshu Ikar. Every time there's something primary when it's failing with it's secondary, and sometimes interchange it with subordinate. The same idea. Baruch Ikar make a bracha the primary, put the secondary, exempt the secondary. Yesh Neminatios. There are two types of secondary. Achas Telamu Revis. One is a secondary which is mixed into the primary. Shane's Tefillah Shanim Revis. The other is a secondary which is not mixed into the primary. What's the case where it's mixed in? They cook two things together. Eat it together. Kidneys in graping. You cook legumes with bran, or bran with potatoes. Shukran kartoffels. Oh, bulbus, which is also another name for potatoes. If there's something mazonos in this mixture, come a luxin, farfel, lumine groifin. If you have luxin or farfel or other types of, 1 second please. Yes, so again, b'neim yeshu v'zeh davar shebrichos mazonos como luxin, farfel, lumine groifin, haverna, grestana, pearl groifin. It's like maybe pearl barley. Even though the minority, because of mazonos, then they're still the primary. Even as minority of the dish, they're primary of the dish. The brothers mazonos. Anytime there's the 5 species of grain. Even though they're minority, they're primary, because of their significance. Dry dish becomes a mazonos. Mishnah Berurah says only when you can taste the grain. If not, it's batel. And he said, evidently that's a machlekes, but that's where he passes. The Arukh HaShulchan adds, unless they were not put into the pot for the purpose of eating, but rather for glue only. Or you mix the the flour with the water, rach, to the point that it became very soft. Umashkin, it's really a beverage, lo ochel, and it's not a food. Brichos shakol, then it's brichos shakol, then it's not primary. Avashare shnei minim. Anything else besides mezonos, when there are two species mixed together, hochim acharov, go to the majority. K'mosh kasav, k'mosh kasim reish ches. Shem is bar, they will explain that orez rice afish v'chosim mezonos, even though brachon is mezonos. Kom elo chashivus chamish minim. Nevertheless, doesn't have significance of the 5 species. She chashuv leikav shkamur, that should be considered primary even when it's a minority. It's like other foods where you go after the majority. The Shabbat says, oh, this is specifically when both of them can be considered to be significant. But one of them is certainly not significant, even if it's majority, it's batel vis-a-vis the minority, which is significant. Sharatim says, Chai Adam says that when each one is recognizable in and of itself, you should make 2 brachas. But subject brachas lahakel, and evidently he doesn't pass the Chai in this respect. Bir Halacha also adds that in terms of anything which has the 5 species of grain, also if the second species is nikar, the Chai would say to make 2 brachas. But somebody wants to take into account the Chai, the Mishnah says he must crush the species which is minority, or even the majority, which is mixed into 5 species. So it shouldn't be nikar in the dish. And I know it seems to me that would ruin part of the experience of the dish, and something which is not necessarily required. Beis. So don't ask, according to this, that we cook dishes with meat. We make on such dishes 2 brachas, on the primary and on the meat, the charcoal. Let one be primary, but any thought on the secondary. They ain't the shale, it's not questioned. By a mixed secondary, it's not by a mixed secondary. You don't say the principle is primary and secondary unless you eat them together. Griping and kidney, such as when you put these what are they called again? The grits. Another word for them. Anyway, with legumes or or with potato, taking 1 spoonful both. Plus, I feel then even if one of the spoonfuls only has one type, nevertheless, it's still considered to be secondary if overall it's secondary. But meat which you're eating beef by itself, before the other part of the dish, or after it's not even though they're cooked together. This is also true. You took the potatoes out of the mixed dish, eat them by themselves. Make a them. If the rest of the cooked dish is mizonos or shakol. And vice versa, and meat, when you cut into small pieces, you eat them together with the cooked dish. In other words, they're not eaten separately, they're batel, they're nullified, utpelim, and secondary, to the cooked dish. Etc., and all such things. Pashtu, it's obvious the call said myrik she'ochel tavshil basar shelo b'toch hasuda. So if you're eating the cooked dish and meat not within the meal, the ochel b'toch hasuda, if you're eating them within the meal, kol tefilin lechem b'erchas hamotzi pochon, they are all subordinate to the primary, which is hamotzi, and they are exempted. And like anything else you eat in the meal, that bread exempts it. So too, a pastry, a dough which is full of fruit or bacon or eggs or begin or cheese, such as our fried dishes. The dough is primary. Answer bracha. Don't make a bracha on the filling. I feel even eat some filling by itself. But if you remove the filling from them, then you eat it separately. You don't eat the primary at all now. Then you have to make the bracha on the secondary, which is appropriate for it. Because at this point in time, it's not secondary but primary. This is true about any ikar and tafel that are mixed together, that they then become separated. Gimel, tefillah she'enim Rebbe's case. What is a secondary which is not mixed? You You eat a herring. The note said but salt, and you take some onion. Vanti maluach to sweeten the herring. Okay. You eat first the herring and then the onion. Enter bracha batzal. You don't need a bracha on the onion. But you need bracha. It made ate the onion first. Even though you have in mind to sweeten the herring, which you're going to eat afterwards. Nevertheless, you have to make adama on the onion. The the general principle by primary and secondary. If they're not mixed together, if you eat the secondary first, don't make great tafel. At that point, it's not called secondary. So bracha minyatzim requires a bracha tzom. So to at the time when you eat the primary, they daitot tefel. You have to have in mind the secondary. I mean, loya daitot tefel. If you didn't have in mind the secondary at all, but after eating the primary, nechlash libo, your heart became weakened. You take the secondary. So you have to make his bracha on the secondary separately. It seems to me I feel that he bracha achas or even if the secondary is with the same bracha as the primary. Don't you shasa yain serve like you drank whiskey, but nechlashi when your heart became weakened. Okay, you're taking cheese to fortify your heart. Shneim because the shako the bracha about the shako came in the Kibbutz to see a loya dina died to the chol. Nevertheless, since at the time he was drinking, he didn't have mind to eat the cheese. So by shako vina be to make a shako on the cheese by itself. Okay, this is true about any similar situation. The Sharatiyim brings down those who argue that hold that it's not called tafel unless you are what? The Sharatiyim brings down those who say that it's only called tafel if it's necessary to eat the salty thing. Not if you want to eat it with the salty thing, and vice versa. Okay, Mishnah Berurah says that also if the derech is to eat the tafel afterwards, you don't make a bracha on it, which basically seems to say same thing like the Arukh HaShulchan. Okay. Sometimes these Mishnah Berurahs added or not really adding anything.